All right, it's time for another installment of Hothead Mailbag. Hothead Mailbag. I'm Joel DeYoung. I'm the producer on Swarm at Hothead Games.
And I'm Pete Lowe. I'm lead designer on Swarm.
And we have in our hands here actual questions from actual gaming journalists. Today the questions are from PlayStation Universe.
This is European.
Really?
Yeah. So these came a long way.
Hello,
to our
Europe.
inbox.
All the way from Canada. Let me just jump into the first question. What challenges have you faced trying to create a game where you're in control of 50 characters at once? And how does level design cater for such a bustling mob of blue morons?
Right. Good questions. Controlling 50 characters at once is very difficult, and we spent a lot of time getting that right. So that the game wouldn't be frustrating to the player, we spent a lot of time trying to figure out exactly where your control point is in that group. So you've got 50 characters at once. You're not controlling this guy or this guy. You're controlling a point sort of that floats around in the middle. And because of the nature of the world that these Swarmites are running around in, they get blown up, they get tossed, they get blown, by fans.
Separated all the time,
there's all sorts of. They're getting separated constantly, and they're dying constantly. So the AI really always has to be checking to find out where the best position is for you to be controlling them from. And the Swarmites are always trying to get back to that position. Swarmites are most comfortable when they're in a flock, when they're in a nice tight, kind of like a school of fish. When they're in that formation, they're really comfortable, they're moving along nicely. But as soon as they get blown up and scattered around, they're constantly trying to get back with each other. So really, those were the big challenges that we had, was trying to figure out where to look, like where the camera should be looking, and where your control point is at any given time.
And we play tested it a lot. Like, we put the game in front of fresh eyes, new people every week, and then just saw how it went. I mean, the question says, how did we cater the level design to help that? I would say the level design actually made it even more difficult because of it being so dangerous, and there are explosions and there's fans and whatnot. But we just really worked on the AI of the game a lot, and the camera system and the whole thing to make it feel intuitive and fun.
And because platforming is a pretty strong element in this game, and it's a pretty quick, fast action type game, you expect there to be a lot of precision. But to get precision out of 50 characters is a really difficult thing to do. But we've found a really good balance in there where it's never frustrating. Once you get used to the fact that characters are going to die all the time, then it works.
Yep. What's the overall goal of the Swarmites, and what are their strengths, weaknesses, and abilities?
Right. So Swarmites can jump, they can boost, they can bash, they can stack.
Huddle, spread.
They can huddle and spread. And you can combine all of those things to do a whole bunch of different stuff in the world. Their strength really is in numbers. So you've got 50 guys, so 49 of them can die as long as you keep one alive.
They're expendable.
They're very expendable, yeah. So that's really their strength. They're also replenishable. So throughout the levels are scattered essentially health packs. We call them swarm fields, and when you touch one of those swarm fields, it replenishes your group back to 50. So that's really their strength. Their weakness is that they're just stupid. They're like as dumb as you can possibly imagine.
They have no concern for their own safety whatsoever. They'll just run off the edge of a cliff.
In fact, if you leave the controller, if you just drop the controller and let it sit there for like 10 seconds or so, they will start to wander off on their own and kill themselves.
Yeah.
Something they
if
like
there's a
to
spinning saw blade nearby, they'll get very curious about it and just walk right into it.
Yeah. The Swarmites look quite cute and docile, but in reality, these suicidal creatures appear to be quite fearless. We understand that they'll often sacrifice themselves for the good of the group. Why do they do this? And in what ways can we expect to sacrifice them?
Well, they die in all kinds of ways. I mean, in fact, we made it sort of a central part of the game, and one of the ways of reminding you that it's okay that they die and it's important is we give you rewards, death medals we call them, for finding the ways they die in different categories. And in fact, there's even death medals for offing the majority of the swarm all at once, which does actually happen a fair bit.
Mega death medals.
Yeah, the mega death medals. We have progressive death medals as well, where we keep track of how many you've killed in each category, and we give you bronze, silver, and gold medals for those. And we've got really big achievements and trophies available for those that unlock all those medals.
I just worked this out last week. If to earn gold medals, I think to earn all of the progressive gold medals, you have to have killed 19,500 Swarmites.
That's a fair number. Yeah, we actually have a leaderboard that just keeps track of how many Swarmites you've killed. And at least on the PlayStation version of the game, there is a global count on the main menu that actually shows you how many Swarmites have died, and that number gets counting up very, very quickly. So they do have to sacrifice themselves a fair bit. And so there are places in the level where maybe you have to jump to a high platform, and the only way to do it is to huddle them together and then jump repeatedly while you're huddled, and you'll form this sort of natural totem pole. That allows you to reach high enough to jump. But as you jump your entire totem, guess what? The bottom 25 guys or whatever just fall into the abyss.
Yeah.
There's places where they have to stuff themselves into pipes of toxic gas and
Electrocute themselves.
yeah, that's right.
Plug themselves into a kind of a circuit.
yeah, close a circuit to open a gate. So yeah, there's no shortage of the way these guys are going to die, but it really isn't about the individual abilities of any one of them. It's about the whole group.
Sure, but also the way the scoring system works, if you every time a Swarmite dies, you kind of reset the score multiplier buffer. So a strategy as you start to get better at the game is to actually constantly be killing Swarmites to keep that score buffer open so that your multiplier can get bigger.
Yeah, and that's the scoring becomes really important to the game because you may need 300,000 points to move on to the next level. But if you're a really, really good player and you replay that level because of the score multiplier and the time bonus and the checkpoint bonuses, the scores that you can get grows exponentially, and you could get 20 million on that level or something.
Yeah.
And so we got leaderboards for every level. We've got weekly leaderboards for every level, and we've put in your face all the time how you're doing in comparison to your friends, so that there's really a tight sense of competition, just like in games like Trials HD and whatnot. What platform and puzzle challenges can we expect the Swarmites to face?
Well, as we've mentioned, the shape of your swarm, the speed of it, there's lots of timing puzzles, like knowing when to stack and when to bash things. There's lots of button-type puzzles where you have to sort of trigger buttons in a certain sequence. But buttons can be placed in a way that you need to have a certain number of Swarmites and then spread out to be able to hit them all, within the time limit that you're given. We have things we call, what do we call them?
Quorum plates.
Oh yeah, quorum plates. So there's a 30, a 40, and a 50 plate in the levels. That means if you have 50 Swarmites alive and you stand on that plate, it's kind of like a pressure plate. It drops down and it unlocks bonus pickups that are worth more points. So we challenge the player quite often in certain areas to survive sections of a level with a certain number of Swarmites alive so that you can then trigger that plate to get the bonus pickups.
Last question.
Where have you drawn inspiration from while designing Swarm?
Well, that's a good question, and it's one we get fairly often. A lot of people reference other games like Lemmings or Pikmin or Overlord or even Sonic. Really, though, this game was built on the PhD research of Dr. Mike Hayward. He's our resident PhD here at Hothead, and he did his work in artificial life. We took his work and then created a really cute character and put him in a dangerous world where he's going to get killed all the time, and that was really the basis of Swarm. It's hard to say it's like A meets B or it's drawn directly having inspiration from other games because controlling 50 guys all at once in an action platformer is something we think is pretty unique and that hasn't been done before in a game, and so we're really anxious to get it out and for people to be able to try it. We are going to be releasing the game actually very soon on Xbox Live Arcade and PlayStation Network. You can get all the latest news about when the game's going to be coming out and those other details on our website at www.swarmites.com. And you can also stay up to date on all the latest gaming news at PlayStation Universe, which is www.psu.com. So for Hothead and the Swarm team, I'm Joel.
I'm Pete.
And we will see you later.